If you're like me and Cybermen are one of your favourite villainous creations in Doctor Who, then you will know that there are some absolute gems of Cybermen storytelling in comic format. From the expansive fan service in 2016 Supremacy of the Cybermen, to the poignant roller coaster of 1979's Throwback the Soul of a Cyberman, to the sheer lunacy in stories such as Black Legacy. Blood of my ancestors indeed. Alan Moore, you man. But I only recently thought to myself, I've never actually read the first ever Cybermen comic, so I thought I'd do a little bit of investigating. And to be honest, discovering what the first ever Cybermen comic actually wasn't really difficult. I simply had to look inside my Cybermen Ultimate Guidebook and refer to the cyberography right at the back. And there it was. The first ever Cybermen comic was titled Secrets of the Cybermen. Apparently. You see, when I typed this name into Google, nothing came up. It appeared on the surface like no such comic existed. So I looked it up in my 1988 David Banks Cybermen book, which also contains a complete compendium of every Cyberman comic published up until the point where that book was published. And it was there that I discovered that this was also called Return of the Cybermen. And I knew that both books were on about the same comic because they both cited it as being published in the TV comic from issues 824 to 827. Right then, I thought to myself, so it's not called Secrets of the Cybermen, it's called Return of the Cybermen. And I knew that this would be a bit of a trickier research because there is also a big Finnish release titled Return of the Cybermen, which is like a parallel universe version of Revenge of the Cybermen. I typed it in, and again, nothing. And the entire time I was looking for this, I kept on getting these smarty pants AI overview results, which was telling me that I was probably looking for Tomb of the Cybermen, which I wasn't, otherwise I'd have said Tomb of the Cybermen. Anyway, I eventually discovered that a colorised version of this comic was republished in the Doctor Who Classic Comics Collection, issue 26 in 1994, and it was there that I discovered the true title of this comic. Both of those books got it wrong. It's actually called Coming of the Cybermen. We just have to be adults about this. My theory, I guess, is that in the original TV comic publication, this comic didn't actually have a title. There's only a front panel strip evidence that this comic even existed when you look it up on Wiki Fandom, and boy is that a strange drawing of the Doctor. So yeah, both books made up their own titles, I guess. So anyway, the first segment of Coming of the Cybermen was originally published in TV comic back in September 1967, just 1 week after the final episode of Tomb of the Cybermen was transmitted on TV. But despite the fact that the Cybermen had looked like this in two of their adventures now, the Cybermen in this comic were clearly the Mondasian kind. And the reason for this, according to the 1988 David Banks book, was that the comic artist John Canning was sent production stills of those Cybermen from the 10th planet. This is all he had to work on, so that is what he drew. But in this day and age, way forward in 2025, I don't think many of us would have beefs with Patrick Troughton's Doctor coming face to face with Mondasian Cybermen. For one thing, it's cool. For the other thing, we've just come to accept that different Cybermen are doing different things across the Doctor Who timeline. So even canonically, it is entirely possible that this can and will happen. It's great. So I found this comic and I read it. It is extremely simple and extremely good fun. So this is the age in comic artistry where the second Doctor was still all about that hat. An item of clothing that he had long since shed in TV Doctor Who, but in the comics he's wearing it all the time. Look at the length of it there. Whilst I don't doubt that the original TV comic prints of this story exist somewhere in somebody's attic, I found it nigh on impossible to locate online. But I did find a digital version of the 1994 colorised republication. Hang on, I've just realised that says Doctor Who in colour. Was the original version in colour as well? I've confused myself now. Anyway, sorry if I got that wrong. And you can get physical copies of this secondhand on eBay, but I thought for the purposes of this video, it would be much more useful to find a honest archive of this comic. So I went to the internetarchive.org, which is an absolute godsend for finding obscure comic media and even some TV stuff of Doctor Who, which you wouldn't really find anywhere else. It's a far, far cry from any kind of modern piracy site, particularly when it comes to modern piracy, when it hurts small independent creators and artists. I absolutely despise it in all its forms. So let me make it clear that the Internet Archive is not this. It is simply a library of things that you will find very difficult to locate anywhere else, mostly old stuff too. So this is where I read the comic, and I had a great time reading it as well. So the Doctor has two exclusive comic book companions, John and Gillian, and in this story they land on a distant planet to find a crashed spaceship. The Doctor goes on board to investigate, fearing for the children's safety, and it is there that the ship is approached by a group of Cybermen. Turns out the ship belonged to them, and one of the Cybermen pilots crashed it. And one of the first things you see of these Cybermen talking to each other is one of them stating that this Cyberman who crashed the ship has been punished and executed. Wow, that's pretty ruthless. It's also worth noting that when the Doctor first sees the Cybermen, he says to himself, "The enemy I most fear." Good on you, Doctor. Yeah, they're much scarier than Daleks. Come on. So the Doctor has no choice but to hide from the Cybermen while the Cybermen salvage the ship and take off into outer space, leaving the Doctor trapped in the ship and poor John and Gillian stranded alone on the planet. Whilst sneaking around and exploring like the mad little pixie that he is, the Doctor discovers that this ship also contains a giant bomb, which the Cybermen plan to drop on planet Earth. They're not going to assimilate any human beings in this story. They're simply going to blow up the planet. Pretty simple and effective if you ask me. So the Doctor tinkers with the bomb and sets the timer to 25 minutes, giving him enough time to escape before the bomb goes off and destroys the entire ship. And that's basically the story. The final segment of the story is him trying to escape and running into numerous problems and encounters along the way. And I just think the whole pacing of this comic is delightfully pleasant. I mean, it's very simple, very much for children, and there's no real kind of extensive narrative bells and whistles. The comics back in those days had a very straightforward linear format, but I think that's the reason why I like it. It's a very minute microcosm bit of storytelling, but it just works. Throughout the latter stage of this comic, there are various panels reminding readers that this bomb is counting down from 25 minutes to 15 to 10 to 5, and it's just a very effective way of creating suspense for the reader. Obviously, the Doctor escapes at the last minute and the bomb goes off and the ship is destroyed, and he has a bit of a chuckle with his companions at the end. Standard. Some of the artistry in this comic is superb, like the interior of the Cyberman ship, the whole industrial complex, and I love that 60s retro feel to some of the drawings and some of the aesthetics as well. Like, I love the fact that the ships are alphabetized, and of course there are some hilarious drawings of the Doctor. It is one day my hope to collate as many mad drawings of the Doctor from comics as I possibly can. Everything appears crisp, well detailed, and there just seems to be a general sense of passion gone into all the artistry in this comic. But most importantly of all, the drawings of the Cybermen themselves are things of sheer beauty. I'm actually really glad that it was the Mondasian version of Cybermen that the artist John Canning got to work with here, because the style with which he draws these lends itself really well to the cosmetics of that particular model of Cybermen. I'm talking mainly about the fact that the Mondasian Cybermen were more consisted of cloth material, even more than any of the other later Cybermen, and there are certain drawings where the Cybermen are turning to face a certain direction and you can see the strain grain of the cloth and just the level of detail gone into these drawings are marvellous. It makes the majority of these panels like kind of Cybermen Kodak moments of their own right. You can ignore the story completely and gorge on some of the drawings here, and for that reason alone, this comic is an essential bit of material for the avid lover of Cybermen. I'm actually kicking myself for not discovering it sooner, and given the level of quality of the artistry in this comic, I think I will definitely be looking into more of the John Canning Cybermen stories that followed this one. I'd love to go right the way through to the end. This is a perfect example of an easy to miss microcosm of Doctor Who storytelling, and it really is a piece of media that you can get lost in if you're a Doctor Who nerd like me. It's just fun. Like, originally the reason why I made this video was because I was having a particularly busy weekend. I've got quite a few Patreon requests to fulfill, I've got TV stories to watch and cover and research, and for this weekend I just had to whip up something quick, which was why I thought of this particular topic. But now that I am on that subject, I'm really interested in looking into more comics of this era and maybe having a late 60s, early 70s exclusive delve into comics of that area. You know, the comics that predated the kind of Marvel publications, and when brilliant artists such as Alan Moore, Dave Gibbons and all the rest came into it. This original guise of Doctor Who comics I think is well worth investigating. I think if I look further, I'm going to find some real treasures. And that is where I would like you to help me. If you guys know of any obscure TV comics that are worth investigating and talking about, please hit me up in the comics and give me some suggestions, because if this video does well, I would love to do more. And even if this video doesn't do well, I'd like to do some more anyway. I hope you enjoyed this video, and thank you so much for watching. If you want to check me out on social media, then please visit my Blue Sky page at thechosenchimp.bsky.social. You can also head over to Patreon at patreon.com/chosenchimp and become a distinguished follower for just £1 a month. It is there that you can request your Doctor Who topic for coverage, your name will be mentioned in the video, and your contribution will go towards making this channel a bigger, smarter, better, stronger place. I hope you are all safe and well, and please, for the love of Pete and his world, do have a good 'em.